And thanks for staying with us on the Strictly Stripes podcast. So, Mike, I was just talking with Lance. He talked so much about the Bengals offense, and I do want to kind of nitpick some things he talked about. But the big thing he said about Patrick Mahomes, who I want to spend more time talking about, is the Bengals don't really have to do anything crazy out of the ordinary. That doesn't mean you can't be dynamic, but the way he summed it up is they just need to be vanilla. I don't know if he's just saying that because maybe that's what's worked for them against Mahomes, or if it's because of the fact that he's dealing with the high ankle sprain, which we don't know how much it's going to affect him, even though he is going to play Sunday. But maybe it's because of that. Maybe it's a mix of both. But, when you think of being vanilla against Patrick Mahomes, like, what do you think of? What does that mean to you if you're Lou Anarumo and you're scheming up against Mahomes again?
Well, I don't know the context of what he said, but I would assume that he meant like not to be too aggressive and make force mistakes and let him, try to force him to beat you. Keep everything underneath. Don't let anything go. Busts in the back end, like things like that, and sort of let your offense sort of dictate the game. I mean, you saw kind of how they've had success the last 4 weeks getting up to those leads right off the bat. I think both teams. I think I saw stat where they're 12-0 this season when they score first. Both teams are something like that. So something will have to give.
Yeah, I think I saw
Obviously,
that too. Actually, that's kind of funny.
between the teams, and I think both teams want to sort of dictate. Have their offenses dictate the game that way. And I think it's easier said than done if you do have the lead. Then a team does have to make plays. Buffalo was forced in a situation where they had to take some chances. They had to try to move the ball, and they ironically didn't take very many of them, and sort of stumbled to the finish line. But you wouldn't expect that from Kansas City. But it'll be all that coin toss and who takes the ball first could be really important in that sort of aspect in terms of who gets to sort of dictate the pace and sort of um, you know play with that momentum on their shoulders.
I mean, that was a big difference in the AFC Championship because the Chiefs had the ball to end the half, um, and Eli Apple and Trey Hendrickson stopped Tyreek Hill at the goal line when the Chiefs opted to go for it instead of kicking a field goal, which made a big difference because that meant that the Bengals were able to take a lead in the fourth quarter because of that. They also had the ball to start the second half. The Chiefs did, and the Bengals would not let them score. They did not score. The Chiefs didn't score basically until that final drive when Harrison Butker tied it to send it to overtime. Which again, like if you go for the field goal, then that's a game-winning field goal at that point, not a game-tying field goal. But instead, they went for it and they didn't get it because I think in that case, I know the word momentum is overused, but it made sense in that case. I don't know what it's going to look like in this case because it's going to be a different game and similar setting, obviously, but it's just a whole different game. But you even look at overtime. I remember if you watch the TV broadcast when the Chiefs won the coin toss in overtime, Chiefs fans thought they won the game, and well, here we are now. We all know what happened. So coin tosses, man, like whether it's Joe Mixon's coin toss or the game coin toss, I mean, coin tosses have just been everything in the last month. But when you're in the playoffs, plus the special circumstances, obviously, coin tosses are definitely interesting. But with the run game, like obviously they've relied on Isaiah Pacheco and Jerick McKinnon because Clyde Edwards-Helaire has been out since week 11. He's on the IR with a high ankle sprain. Although I'm seeing reports coming out of Kansas City that he could be pulled off the IR. Obviously, they're not going to decide that just yet, but there's a chance he may come back for the championship game. He didn't really do much last year in that game. He's been decent this year, but like obviously, I think it's interesting how well Pacheco's played. He actually didn't have that bad of a game against the Bengals. McKinnon had a touchdown, and it was a receiving touchdown, I think, if I'm not mistaken, and it was actually pretty well drawn up by Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy. So, if you're Lou Anarumo and you're going against Juju Smith-Schuster, Kadarius Toney, who they got in a trade this year, and of course Juju Smith-Schuster as well, they got him this year. Marquez Valdez-Scantling. What do you do in the secondary to make sure that they don't have those explosive plays that they got away with a little bit back in December and that they definitely got away with back in the AFC Championship game?
Well, I don't. I think Lou hinted at this on I don't know what day it was. Maybe it was Monday. Oh, it was Monday. He talked
It was
that
Monday.
that
It's been a long
they could
week.
be just as dangerous not going over. He said he noticed. I think he mentioned the last couple weeks in terms of Travis Kelce. Just letting him work basically, and he's just been destroying teams sort of with yards after
Yeah.
catch and sort of just plowing through people, and that's a real problem because that's hard to sort of scheme up
Yeah.
and stop. You can't prevent a guy from getting even a touch. So I don't think it's just as simple as saying like take away the deep routes. I think last year Tyreek Hill, that was such a danger just because he's an absolute unique type of receiver that sort of unmatched speed wise. And so I mean I think the challenge with Kelce and sort of how they've operated this offense is a little different. I think it's I don't know, it's just as simple of taking away one thing. I think it's sort of how do you limit sort of the damage just overall, and trying to pick your spots. This team's really obviously, got a lot of talent, got, very, um, in terms of play calling, just so good at getting their skilled positions the ball and getting them in space. And then you have Mahomes, kind of to make your life miserable. So, yeah, I don't, it's not a simple thing, and they've won 3 in a row against them. And obviously that's a huge, it's really, really impressive. And Travis Kelce, I'm looking at Pro Football Focus.